if you were to look at an asset that is your most valuable asset, it's time. And to me, wealth is really the ability to spend your time the way you want. And people go, oh, like retired? No, like when you have material wealth, you have an excess of resources. So like if you've got enough money, Junaid, you can throw it at hiring an editor, which that you have the power to buy your time back to do what you want with it.
Today I get to speak with Mike Gaston. So, how did I discover Mike Gaston? Well, I first watched his YouTube video about the Cybertruck and how it was a branding marvel. Now, we all have heard of the Cybertruck by Tesla, and the internet was going crazy over this amazing design. People either thought it was ugly or beautiful, and Mike Gaston displayed a very thorough view of what Elon Musk and Tesla did to the truck industry with the Cybertruck. The depth of knowledge and references shown through the video because Mike Gaston himself is a strategic marketing consultant who has been helping privately owned companies scale, gain competitive advantage, launch new products and services. He's developed a ton of marketing strategies, implementation plans, branding platforms, and marketing systems towards helping the client realize their goals. He typically works in conjunction with owners, CEOs, and their leadership teams, acting as an outsourced CMO and a trusted advisor. Let's get to know more about Mike and learn from what he does that focuses on strategies. Thank you for tuning in to Hacks and Hobbies with your host, Junaid. We're visited by our amazing guests coming from all walks of life who want to learn their story, their struggles, and their journey on how they got to where they are today. So stick around. Mike, thanks so much for coming on to the podcast.
Thank you for having me, Junaid. It's a pleasure to be here today.
Fantastic. So Mike and I, we met through a very random coincidence. I mean, Mike created an awesome video that my brother-in-law actually shared in our group chat and was like, dude, check out this Cybertruck branding video. And I checked it out. I was like totally blown away by his, like the way he went into the stuff. And so I was like right away, I checked out his other videos. I went to the contact information and I emailed him and we've been talking since then. And I can't even remember, when was this?
I want to say that video came out. It was before Thanksgiving. It was maybe early November. It was, I think the Cybertruck came out on a Thursday, and I made that video maybe all night Saturday night through Sunday. I did it and then posted it that weekend, maybe Sunday morning or Sunday night. I don't remember.
Yeah.
It didn't blow up right away. Initially, that video just kind of sat there for a little bit, but I think somebody on a Reddit forum found it, like a Tesla Reddit forum, and they shared it because the data shows that all this outside traffic came in. And then once all these guys started pouring in, watching the video from Reddit, I think the YouTube algorithm picked it up and it blew up. But you and I have been talking to each other because you emailed. I was flattered. You know, it was fun to interact with people. You were really cool. We started texting each other. So, I mean, we've pretty much stayed in touch since then, which has been really nice.
Yeah, it's been pretty awesome. And I think it's all about engagement, right? It's all about reaching out and connecting to that one person that you just connected on a different level. And I think that's what we found in each other by connecting and talking. And you have a podcast, you know, so I listened to The Currency and the way you edit it, the way you like go on location, and in the middle you just cut into like, okay, we're gonna take a little break. So that was really a nice touch. And I was like,
Thank you.
I need to do something like that.
How long have you been doing the Hacks and Hobbies podcast?
So the Hacks and Hobbies, it started back in 2018.
Okay.
I just finished my 8-week beekeeping class, and I was like, I need to document the journey. And then it also coincided with me finishing reading the book by Gary Vaynerchuk, Crush It and Crushing It. And he's like, just document the process. What are you so scared of? So it was a culmination of like a lot of things coming together. And I was like, I'm just gonna do the podcast. Just jump right into it. And it was the first season was all about just me documenting and just talking to myself in my car while I commute. But then I was like, I need to start talking to more people because the more I hear your network is your net worth, and then all
Mm,
these things about talking people, outreaching. I was like, there's something there. There's something that I'm lacking because I mean, growing up on the internet, I've connected with a ton of people. Like I remember back in the days, AOL Instant Messenger, I would just, randomly go talk to people. And I was like, well, it's not that much different now, but now you can actually put a face to the person and more
yeah.
screen names. So that's been pretty exciting. So Mike, tell us a version of your journey that no one's heard of before.
Oh goodness. A version of my this is okay. Now you've thrown me a curveball right out of the gate. A version of my journey that no one has heard before. Wow, Junaid, I think you've stumped me right out of the gate, and I like to talk.
Well,
I y-
we'll go into something that we all know, right? So you're a YouTuber, you're in
yep,
branding space. How did all that come about?
sure, sure. And thanks for rescuing me. I would have struggled. I would have come up with an answer, but so so I've got a YouTube channel. I'm a YouTuber. I guess it's kind of funny for me to say that. I've got right now just shy of 11,000 subscribers, and really that subscriber base came from that Cybertruck video.
Right.
I had a little channel. I was just learning. I'm still learning the ropes, but
Mhm.
that one video hit and gave me a nice audience. And I'm still exploring. I still don't think that I've cracked the code. I know I haven't cracked the code, but I feel like I'm getting better and better with that.
Mm.
But my background is brand and marketing. I studied communication and graphic design as a minor in college. I went on to get into things like sales, marketing, and so on. I did some agency work. I did some marketing for some really large companies like Honeywell. I got into publishing, engineering, manufacturing, and so on. A lot of different things. And if you look at my career, every year and a half to 2 years, I would jump to something new. I just
Mm.
bounce and bounce and bounce. And this kind of gets at your tell us something that nobody knows. I married someone from another country. So in America, like I'm 53, it's
Mhm.
more and more common. Like in the old days, you'd just keep a job for a long time. And if you jumped around, people thought something was wrong with you. Nowadays, it's pretty common. But
Yeah.
my wife coming from another culture, like her parents were nervous. Like this guy doesn't keep it. Like I was always employed. I always earned really well, but I would jump from job to job and I kind of got bored. I would get bored or frustrated and I would just leave. I've never been fired my whole life. I guess there's still time. Of course, now I'm an entrepreneur. So I guess the only way to get fired is to fire myself. But I went one time to a kind of career person saying, help me find I was a pretty successful sales rep
Mhm.
and I wanted to get a better sales job. And she looked at me, she goes, I'm not going to help you. And I was kind of taken back. I'm like, what are you talking about? And I'm in my early 30s at this point, but I was a hitter. I was a closer. I did really well. She goes, yeah. She goes, I'll help you find a job. And in a year and a half, you'll be back here saying to me, I'm not happy. I need another job. She goes, here's what you need. You need to have your own business. The problem isn't that you're undisciplined. The problem isn't that you're reckless. It's that you need to be in control and you get bored too easily. So I'm going to recommend one of two things. You either need to start your own business or you need to find a senior person that can take you under their wing that wants to sell their business and they can mentor you and you could take the business over. And it was like a religious experience. When she did that, it's almost like she looked inside me on a level that nobody else ever had before. And I always knew that I was entrepreneurial and I tried other things, but I had a young family and I just thought I needed to buckle down and do the thing. So
Yeah.
fast forward to today, I've owned an agency for about 15 years.
Wow.
Maybe it was more than that, but about 15 years I owned an agency. We did work for Fortune 50, Fortune 500, big companies, Bird's Eye Foods, Kodak, Wegmans Foods. We did all kinds of branding work,
Nice.
web development, packaging. And about 4 years ago, I shut that down. As I was running that business, I was evolving as a person. And I loved graphic design, but it was more tactical. And I wanted to be more involved in the strategic stuff. I love the strategic elements of branding. I love business strategy, marketing strategy, and so on. So I wound that business down.
Yeah.
It was very hard because I love my staff. They're just great people. And then went out on my own as a consultant. And so for the last 4 years, I've been consulting typically for privately owned businesses, anywhere
Mm.
between say 10 and 200 million a year in revenue. I work with the owners to help them transform their marketing and their branding. and it's been really rewarding. So that's kind of me in a nutshell.
Yeah.
I don't know if that gives you a good picture, but that's how I got to where I am now. I wish I knew now what I knew then, or I wish I knew then what I know now, I should say,
Yeah.
because I think I would have changed some things along the way. But I'm thrilled to be where I am. It's such a blessing to do the work that I do, and I'm grateful for it.
That's beautiful, man. The journey you've shown, it's I don't want to say it's typical, but it's very different from like you said, a lot of people stuck in the same job for a very long time. Starting back then, like I look at my dad, and he worked for the same company when we all moved to Saudi Arabia for
Okay.
about 30 years, I would think, from 80s
Wow.
to 2000 and 2003. So he was basically in the same company. It was a consultant company, but he worked on several different projects because as part of an agency or a consultancy, you work on different projects as a systems
Sure.
analyst and whatnot. So that was interesting, but technically, the paycheck was coming from the same EIN number or whatever you might call it,
Sure.
and the longest that I've worked at any company is probably 3.5 years, right? Because I've got the same problem. I jump around.
Right.
Either that there's a fast growth in the company, and then they shot too high of went public too quickly, and the company's stock got diluted, and now they're laying off everybody. I'm like,
Right.
oh
Right.
great, we thought we were going somewhere, right? That was an exciting experience. And then either the CEO that came into the company was like, "Why are you talking to ex CEOs? You're fired." So
Oh, wow.
I've had some of those experiences, but I've landed on my feet, no matter what the situation was. But this last time around, I started my podcast. I got too into it, and I didn't heed the advice of other podcasters that you should hire a editor for your podcast and not be staying up 3 hours working on an episode. So I didn't heed that advice. I was working on the episodes while at work, right? So it was taken away. Essentially, I got myself fired a couple of times. And
Mm-hmm.
I was like, well, I need to hire a team if I want to keep doing this. So then it doesn't eat into my time, because time is something that is very finite. It's something that doesn't come back. Money keeps coming back, right?
Time is our most valuable resource. I mean, people
Yeah.
don't think about it, but I agree with you 100%. I mean, time, if you were to look at an asset that is your most valuable asset, it's time.
Yeah.
And to me, wealth is really the ability to spend your time the way you want. And people go, "Oh, like retired?" No, like when you have material wealth, you have an excess of resources. So, like if you've got enough money, Junaid, you can throw it at
Yeah.
hiring an editor, that you have the power to buy your time back to do what you want with it.
Amen.
So yeah, I'm with you 100% on that. Although I am still editing my own YouTube videos and own podcasts, so I have to learn to let go of some of that stuff. I've kind of, I don't know about you, in my mind I've got
Yeah.
some goals, like when I hit a certain level, then I'm going to bring somebody in to do that. So for this you've got an editor now that you're
Yes.
hired, and
Yes.
how's that working out? Like, because I'm a bit of a perfectionist, so certain things I don't want to hand off. How is
Mhm.
that?
What it took me was, I was like, I just need somebody to just put these things together. It doesn't have to be highly polished. I gave them a template. Okay, this is
Mm-hmm.
my template. This is my intro. Put this intro audio in, and I'm going to record my introductions to each of the episodes. Put that in the front, and then you go into the episode. Clean up a little bit, apply these effects. So I basically created like a
Yeah.
20-minute long video of the process of how I put my episodes together.
Mm-hmm.
And then what I didn't realize is in my introduction that I mentioned season two. So some of the season three episodes have an intro that says season two, but nobody pays attention to that because I haven't had anybody come to me telling me, "Hey, how come you have a season two, intro?" So that also goes to show that I haven't been marketing a lot around my
Sure.
episodes. I get what I get, but I do have a plan. I have a VA that I'm training to help with the promotion piece, help with
Okay.
emailing. So there's a big stuff coming along. Um, what I'm doing. I have my son come in here asking for tea.
Nice. That's
Hey, you want
okay.
to say hi?
Hello. Hello, Subby. How are you?
This buddy is he's a little shy.
That's
Um,
okay.
we don't have any tape. You guys finished it all. You can use stapler. All right. I think Bhaiya has a stapler. All right.
That's all right. That's great.
Oh, you can't use a stapler. Well, I don't have any tape. We don't have any tape. We have to buy some.
My youngest is 21, so I'm
Oh wow.
past these. Although we do have we have a dog now that's about 5 months old. So she will try to bang and come into my office, but
Yeah.
my wife took her outside, so we'll be okay.
Nice. Yeah, so we have I have a 10-year-old, a 5-year-old, and a 2-year-old. The 2-year-old's at grandma's.
Okay.
So both my wife and I work from home,
Okay.
we
Hmm.
need some
Yeah.
sanity in our corner.
Yeah. No problem. No,
So
it's a total. We homeschooled too, so we're used to having the kids around, but mine are all older now.
yeah.
Anyway, go ahead.
So yeah, that's something that I'm working on to, going through that process, and I'm gonna have to get some tape for this, buddy.
Go
Hold
ahead.
on.
That's all right. I don't mind waiting.
Musa, Musa, come. Musa, let's see if Bhaiya can find some tape for you. Musa,
Cute.
cool thing about cool thing about editing is that you can edit stuff out or leave it in.
Yeah.
It's the life of the COVID, and so you said you've been homeschooling for your kids, which is really awesome. My wife's been thinking about that too. So I think that would be something really cool because starting 2 weeks from now, we're gonna have two kids doing virtual schooling.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
All right,
We don't regret it. We love that we homeschool from the beginning.
nice.
Kids have done really well in university. So I mean, it's not, it hasn't held them back. I've got one kid with a degree in economics, another kid
Nice.
with a mechanical engineering degree, and my daughter is about to finish up. She's got one more semester, but I mean, it's good because you can instill your values and
Yes.
your worldview, which I think is important. And at the same time, instill a love for learning, which I think sometimes the school system struggles to do that because it's a little
Yeah,
bit more of a bureaucracy and
it
it's
is.
a little bit less it's not as exciting. But on the other side, they're not hanging out with all their friends. But in the
Yeah.
world of COVID, they're not hanging out with them anyway.
Yes, exactly. They're not.
Yeah,
And the best way to hang out is through video anyways,
there you go. At least today. Yeah.
Exactly. So going back to the podcast and what I'm doing with it, I'm just learning through it. I think my most favorite part about the podcast is these conversations. These
Mm,
conversations that I have with our guests, with other people, like yourself, you have so many different um the mindset, the passion towards what you're creating, and all the different things that I think entrepreneurship itself brings to the life. I mean, there's so many times that these conversations have gone into tangents, but then you're always, exactly where we all come from, right? The mind of an entrepreneur is of a, you just want to look in deep into those ideas and see where they can go.
I agree. And I struggle right now. I say struggle, but so I've got a um, full portfolio of clients that I'm serving. I actually hired an employee full time. Actually, it's my eldest son. He's got a degree in economics and he's helping me with the client work. So we're busy there. And I'm trying to launch this. I say launch, but I'm trying to grow this other side of the business, which is how do I serve? It's one thing to serve a client, and if I can help a client grow, if I can help them make more revenue, create wealth, that's great for their employees. It's great for the owner, their community. So that's all good. But I
Mhm.
want to help entrepreneurs. I want to help solopreneurs and freelancers and people learn from what I've been able to gain through my years of experience. How do you close deals? How do you make more money for what you're doing and all that kind of stuff?
Yeah.
So I'm trying to grow my audience, and the challenge I'm having is twofold. One is time, because the client work that I have now takes a lot of time, and the second challenge I'm having is just, should I hold off?
All right, give me a second. Let me see if I can.
Okay, no problem.
Sorry about that.
No, it's fine.
Thank you so much for your patience, my friend.
Yeah, no problem. Do you? I'm fine to keep going, but do you want to try to reschedule? I mean, I
No,
I
no,
wouldn't.
I'm
I'm
okay.
not upset. I understand. You're trying to
No,
juggle everything.
no, no, he's fine. He's fine. If you have the time, I have the time. We're good.
Sure. Okay. Let's keep going then.
All right, let's do this. So you were talking about you've hired somebody in, and
Hmm.
it's your son
Yep.
who got
Yeah, I
in.
can just jump into the second because I had the first thing. I can just jump into the second point your editor can pull out.
All right,
Is that cool to pull out
yeah,
the in between?
that works. Yeah,
Okay. So the second challenge I'm having right now is, time is the first issue. Time is the first issue, but the second, let me do that one more time. So the second challenge I'm having right now is just finding my voice. And what I mean by that is there's so much entrepreneurial content out there. There's like, everybody from Gary Vee all the way on down. There's just a million people talking about entrepreneurship.
yeah,
There are things that I am interested in that are about entrepreneurship, but they get beyond that. It's things like wealth creation and finding fulfillment in life, and even some things about political views and so on. And I'm trying to find a way to bring all those things together in a way that's meaningful to an audience. And I think right now I'm doing a little bit of experimenting. Some content might be a little bit more political, some might be more very much how to,
yeah,
and there's all these points in between. And I'm hoping over time that I don't alienate everybody that's following me, but that I can find that kind of deeper vein that I
yeah,
think is richer and more valuable, so that I can add something to the world that's unique and something that only I can do versus just trying to copy what everybody else is doing. And that takes time. So
that's,
I've had to give myself permission just to suck for a while, to put stuff out there that's not good. And that's hard, but it's liberating too. And we'll see where that leads me over time.
it's really amazing what you're mentioning because I'm part of several different Facebook groups and Slack groups and whatnot, and everybody's wondering what their why is, right? Everybody's
Mm,
figuring out, okay, what's my why? How can I connect with people? How can I you know do like what's my vibe to so I can find my tribe, right? So once you figure that out, and I've been struggling with that since day one. I'm like, okay, who's my target audience? What do you mean my target audience? I'm
yeah,
so talking about that and thinking about that over and over and over and doing all these exercises, and I keep coming back to the answer is like, what kind of transformation what I w- did I see in myself in the past
hmm
2 years, right? So what problem did I solve for myself, and how can help solve that same problem for somebody else,
absolutely.
right?
That's powerful. Yeah. And that can be on so many levels. I
Yeah,
mean, Junaid, it could be as simple as beekeeping, like a very kind of hands-on, I don't want to say tactical, meaning that but it's very hands-on. It's an agricultural kind of thing. Or
yeah,
it could be as high level as transformation of you as a person. Like I've totally transformed. I see the world in a different way. And
yeah,
I that's what's kind of exciting, because I think both extremes are legitimate, and all the points in between, you can go deep with any of those.
absolutely.
And with the way the world is, there's a group of people that want to participate in that. You got to find that tribe. But
Yes.
I'm with you on that. And I kind of know on a certain level, like for me, the transformation that I've experienced throughout my life is learning to live life on my own terms. This
Mm-hmm.
is that idea that I bounced from job to job until I realized I need to have my own business. And at
Yeah.
the time, I didn't think I should do it because I had a young wife. I kept bouncing from job to job. We had little kids and I felt guilty. And I said, no, I just need to be disciplined. And then my dad passed away. He was a Vietnam veteran. He'd been exposed to Agent Orange. He'd been sick for a number of years
Oh,
and he passed away young. And, he had just turned 59.
wow.
And that was a wake up call. I just thought it doesn't matter what everybody wants me to do. It matters what I should do. I have to be true to who God made me to be, kind of thing. And so I
Yeah.
just decided like I'm going to pursue it. Anyway, I know a lot of it's about living life on my own terms, but it's learning to communicate that in a way that's meaningful to others. Because a
Mm-hmm.
lot of it just sits up in my head or in my heart. But how do you get that out in ways that are meaningful and
Yeah.
in ways that the algorithm likes and all that stuff? And it's challenging, but it's a learning.
It
That's a
is.
great thing about, I think, being an entrepreneur. It's like you're always learning, and that's just
It
really
is.
wonderful.
It is. It is. It's absolutely beautiful. The ability. I mean, being able to continue to learn, no matter in which direction you head into, because you're so passionate about. Like, I have a workshop full of projects that I want to start or have started
Yeah.
because it all comes back to time, right? How do I
Yeah.
get that time back so I can go and work on those projects? Like, I have a few jeans that I want to turn into a quilt. I'm
Yep.
like,
Yep.
what? Right? I want to set up like LED lights and I want to build all these like furniture type of things. Like I love doing all of this, and the beekeeping was a really good example, and it got me into an area of knowledge that I had no clue about. So
Mm.
went in and took the class, learned about bees. Like, oh wow, there's only it's the worker bees that are the female bees that do all the work. Male bees have no job whatsoever. Their only job is to, you know, reproduce, or not reproduce, but to
Yeah. To help the queen. Sure.
help the
Yep.
queen. Exactly. That's about it. That's all he does. So learning about a lot of that, and people ask me, why'd you go into beekeeping? And it goes back to, well, it's because we wanted to get local honey that would be good for my
Mm.
son who has seasonal allergies and he has all.
Allergies. Yeah. My wife has done honey therapy.
Mhm. So
Yeah.
that's my to why I got into beekeeping. So to help get right. So that's a story in itself that can say, hey, this is why I got into beekeeping. This is why you could get into beekeeping, right? So if I wanted
Sure.
to go into that. So then I was like, okay, the one business that I've been doing for the past 20 years as a user experience designer, I've been
Mm.
designing user interface and all of this. And I was like, well, I want to help other businesses create online presence. So that could be something that I can sell or a services that I can provide. But when I talk to people about it, my passion didn't come out for it as it
Yeah.
was 20 years ago or 50, 10
Yeah.
years ago.
We
So
change. There's no doubt.
yeah, and I'm like, well, then what's my service? Like, what's my purpose? What am I teaching people? Like, what's my story? And they were like, dude, your video looks amazing no matter where you go. You should be teaching that. I'm like, you're right. So it basically, blinked in my head, like, oh my God, I could totally be doing that because I spent the time, I put the effort in, I crafted this entire studio together to get the look that I wanted to look, that I wanted
Yeah.
to, get going. So I think looking deep into those transformations, what transformation, and I think that's what I've been like hearing from people. Like, you always wanted to say, hey, you are at point A, I can get you to point B, and these are all the
Hmm.
things that you're going to do.
Hmm.
And talking about you, from your experience, you love getting into, I mean, you have a beautiful motorcycle,
Oh,
right, that you go on riding. There's a connection there. You meet people there, right? You go out, and I think there was a story I was listening where this realtor loved playing soccer. So he'd go play soccer, and then anytime anybody needed a home or whatever, they would ask him, and you get into that low. Oh, I know all these properties, blah blah, blah. You kind of connect them from that level. So I think there's a lot of things that you're doing, which is amazing. You know, you're creating content on a weekly basis. Um, and I don't even know where I started going. I just
Well,
love
thank you.
solving
Yeah, I
problems, right? So I'm
well
trying to figure out what can
that's what I was hearing from you is it's really about problem solving. I actually it's funny. I just put together. I'm going to be running a campaign to build my email list,
Right.
and you know, my target market are typically young men. If I look at my demographics on YouTube, it's young men between the ages of like 22, or sorry, between the age of 18 and like 35,
Okay.
34.
Yeah.
I do skew a little older as well, but like the real bulk of them, that's where they are. And so, and I want to help these guys grow their business. And there's some gals in there. I want to help anybody really.
Yeah.
But I put together this mini audio course that I'm going to be giving away if people sign up for the, you know, like a list magnet.
Sure.
And one of the core concepts, so the idea behind this is how do you sell without selling? If you're an entrepreneur, if you're a freelancer, you know, you want to grow your business, you have to sell, but a lot of people hate
Mhm.
selling.
Oh yeah.
Like I love to sell, but not everybody likes to sell. It's rare when people like to sell. So how do you sell without selling? And one of the core things in there is you've got to learn to become a problem solver. If I'm trying to push my thing on you, I'm like, hey, I need some money, so I'm got to find some people that'll hire me because I need cash. Well,
Yeah.
then I'm manipulating. Hey, Junaid, you know, I'm going to help you with your strategy. I just start trying to sell stuff to you. No, you don't want that. No one wants to be sold to, but everybody wants to buy. We
Yes.
love buying things.
Yes.
And the trick is if I can solve problems, then I'm putting you in the position to say, I really want to buy from Mike. The more I can say, tell me about what hurts, like a doctor. Where's it hurt? Tell me a little bit. I think here's the problem. I could solve this for you.
Yeah.
People want that. And I think that's, you know, what I was listening to a moment ago. My mind went to this, and maybe because this is what I'm all about, but it's all
Mhm.
about problem solving. We
Yeah.
create value. And when you do that, you're still selling, but people want to work. They're asking you, please help me. You're an expert. And
Yeah.
I love what you've done. I mean, I've watched some of the stuff that you've done over the last while with some of your videos and your set, your camera setup, the professionalism, the audio, the video.
Yeah.
I just would imagine there's so many people out there that want to get into video and are saying, need someone to guide me. Like
Yes.
they're so complicated. And I bet you could make it simple for them. It's like, here's some tricks, here's some things we can do. I can help you with the gear.
Hmm.
Because a lot of people don't want to, like, if I'm a small business owner, I don't want to necessarily be a video guy, but I
Right.
need to be in front of the camera to help grow my business. I don't want to deal with all that. And
Exactly.
if I hire an outside video company, it's going to cost me 5, 10 grand a video, and that's expensive.
Yeah.
So if you could help me set up a studio and teach me the ropes and connect me with an editor, that you know, that's
Yeah.
a huge service. So yeah.
Beautiful. Beautifully put, you know, because I have been talking with a few like I know a few people that run video editing services. Like
Hmm.
you pay a certain amount per month and you get 4 or 5 videos created for you in all the different formats that you want to
Sure.
put on your thing. All you got to do is be able to create that content and hand it over, and
Hmm.
they do everything. So then you can bring it back and post it on your social medias and whatnot. And I'm like, okay, that's really great. I could probably sell that, but again, I've stuck at sales because I just never was good at it. I remember
Yeah.
10, 10, 15 years ago, I got into cold calling
Mm.
used laptops, and I'm calling people. I'm like, hey, you guys interested in the laptop?
That's tough work. That's tough work.
3 months in, and the company CEO or president, he was like, all right, well, you couldn't meet your quota. Thank you. Thanks for trying.
Yeah, but it seems to me in that kind of thing, the only way you're going to meet your quota is by manipulating people. Because
Yeah.
most people, I mean, who wants to buy a used computer laptop to begin with? And now you're cold calling. Were you calling on corporate accounts or individuals? Who were you calling?
Um, that's a good question. I think probably individuals that they probably had a list from, right? It's
Wow,
really,
that's tough.
really tough.
That's like I can't believe anybody would succeed at that. That's just tough. I
Yeah,
bet you that company's not even around anymore.
they're probably not.
Yeah, yeah.
Um, But that was an interesting experience. And now that now I hear about sales and copy and the way you're supposed to talk, it's they're not buying the product.
That's
They're
right.
buying who you are, right? They're
Hmm.
connecting to the person. So I've just been honest and I've just been very what's that word? Very transparent on what I'm trying to do, what
Sure.
I'm bringing, what I've gone through
So
as a
what problem are you solving?
right, exactly.
Do you have a target market? Is there a group of people that you're offering this to specifically?
So my target market is myself, content creators and podcasters.
There you
I
go.
was like,
Nice.
I'm not gonna focus on somebody else that I'm not, right? Sure, I can
Hmm.
go after beekeepers, but beekeepers only want to record so much video. I mean, they have to have photography hobby to be able
Hmm.
to get into that. But most of the times, not really. But podcasters and content creators, I can relate with these people because we're
Sure.
creating content day in, day out. And I was talking to a friend, a gentleman the other day, and he's a time coach. He's crazy about time, and I told him a little story about how I solved my problem of the studio. Because last year I wanted to do a video course on mobile video production using your
Mhm.
smartphone, how to create video. So I'm teaching about lighting, video, audio, what format you need to be, where there's like few things in there. So I've been
Mhm.
wanting to create videos for that and like a course around it. So I'm like looking around. I'm like, okay, where do I set? I got these yellow walls in my background. Like that's not gonna work. And like I did some videos in 2018, put them on LinkedIn, and I look back at those videos. The bouquet is beautiful, but the background is like all over the place.
Yeah.
I ended up going and buying a backdrop. I'm like, okay, this is gonna work. I set it up in a different room. I set up the cameras. I set up all these things. But now it's been an hour and a half. I haven't recorded any video, and I have to go feed the kids. Like
Yeah.
that's then the day's over, right? Then the next day you go to work and you come back. I'm like, okay, now the kids want to play in this area. You gotta put everything away. So I was like, this is not gonna work. There's so much friction. There's so much
Hmm.
friction. That's why gym membership is one of the biggest thing that people would sign up for because they're so excited at the beginning of the year. But then middle of the year, you're not even going to the gym anymore because it's so much friction. So I was
It's
like, how
hard.
do I
Yeah.
remove that friction?
Yeah. It's like unless you've got the weight set right in front of the Netflix television in your basement, you're out
Yeah,
of luck. It's
yeah.
hard to sustain. Yeah. No doubt.
So that's what I did for myself, and I was like, okay, this looks like it's gonna work. So I was like, okay, if I can focus on my kind of people who are in my boat, they
Hmm.
probably just started podcasting, and podcasting number has been going insane.
Oh yeah.
In the past 90 days, we have 390,000 new podcasts in
Yeah.
2020. Right, so it's going insane. Mike, it's been so awesome learning about you, learning with you, and keeping keep in touch with you. It's been an honor, having you on the podcast. I've watched your videos, and I've been, we chat every once in a while. You do in the live. So, what you did recently is you've created a new channel for just
Hmm.
your live videos. What's the philosophy behind that? Is that one of the experiments you're thinking?
Well, yeah, what I was finding, I was looking at the data. So I have this audience, like I mentioned, and what would happen is, I go some time and I wouldn't create a video. And as the channel would just sit kind of a handful of days, it would grow.
Mhm.
Not a lot, but 2, 3 people a day would, start to subscribe. Whenever I came out with a static video, meaning like I just did a video like how to build a strategy, let's say,
Yeah.
the channel would grow from that too. But whenever I did a live stream, I
Mm.
was noticing because I started live streaming in February this year, 2020.
Mhm.
I noticed that I would lose subscribers. And I was like, that's okay. I mean, I think it's not for everybody. But what was happening is live streaming, to your point about the gym, live streaming is so easy to do. I mean,
Yeah.
you just flip on the lights and camera and you're off to the races. And I really love doing it. I love the audience engagement. There are people, there are regulars that show up. You get to chit chat. It's like family. You hang out and
Yeah.
you have a good time. So what was happening was I was live streaming pretty often and then putting static videos up every so often. So every time I would live stream, the channel would take a hit, then
Mm.
would slowly start to stabilize and then start to gain subscribers again. Then I'd live stream and take another hit. And I thought, you know what? I think the channel's trying to tell me something. There's a group of people that really love the live streams,
Yeah.
but there's another group of people that are like, I didn't sign up for this. And I don't, people don't like seeing a 2-hour video,
Sure.
in their stream. And so
Mm.
the thought was just, I talked to some people and I thought, let me create a second channel for the live stream. And what
Mm.
that also does for me is it gives me some freedom on the live stream to not worry about the brand. I mean, I'm always thinking of my brand,
Yeah.
but I can focus on the larger channel. There's some things I want to do, like video essays. I've
Mm.
got one in the works if it ever makes the light of day about BMW and some of their design changes. I've
Mm.
got some other stuff in the works about the history of strategy and business, and also I'm working on one right now about the microchip. Intel getting out of the microchip business, and that there's this one company in Taiwan that basically creates all the microchips. So I'm
Yeah.
working on some really interesting content there. And then
Mm.
the other hand, I can do these kind of fun live streams where I hop on and have a good time with people, a little
Yeah.
bit more freedom, and it keeps those separate. And there are people that watch both. I've got people that are subscribed to both channels, but I think it gave the other folks a chance to say, okay, good, I can get what I want, and I don't have to get frustrated with this other stuff
Yeah.
that I'm seeing all the time. That's all. It just made it easier for me.
Nice.
We'll see. I mean, maybe down the road I want to bring those back together, but I can see those being two separate channels. And what I do now is my podcast used to be audio only. Like you said,
Mm.
I'd go on location, I'd interview an entrepreneur. I've kind of shifted gears and said,
Yeah.
okay, I've made once a week a live stream as the actual podcast. And I
Nice.
want to start bringing guests back into that now that we've got video and everybody's set up for video chat. But
Yeah.
at this stage, I'm just doing like a talk on a topic. I'm chatting with people. I'll trim that down and then post that to, Apple and Spotify and so on. So you can still
Yeah.
get the audio only, but people can participate as I do the
Got it.
podcast live, which is kind of fun too.
Nice.
Yeah.
That's a really great idea. Bringing on guests for live and then having a separate channel for live. So what I've experienced with live is, yes, the engagement is there, but I think what's really fun is when you have people talking back and the audience that you build.
Yeah.
And you probably follow or heard me talk about Pat Flynn over the past few months,
Oh
right?
yeah. And he did didn't he did like a whole 30 days straight of live streaming. Like he did an experiment where he went nuts with live streaming.
No, he didn't stop. He
Oh,
hasn't
he
stopped.
didn't.
He's
Okay.
he's done 150, probably 150 days. I lost
Wow.
count. He just every single day actually he's going live from I think it's 9 a.m. his time in California, or it's 11 a.m. Eastern time, so whatever.
Yep. Yep.
So if, I think 2 hours every day, and he's got a whole bunch of people. And what he's done is he's created a separate community on circle.com where you get to be part of this community. There's I think 500 people now paying $50 a month
Wow.
in this community,
Yeah.
right? Because he's been doing it for over 10 years, this podcasting
Yeah.
video and what have you, and he's basically bringing all of that knowledge, basically unraveling everything, and he's gained some followers, and
Now,
he's
does he just do Q&A? Like, does he have a topic every time, or is he just jump in and do Q&A
he,
live stream each time?
he's got topics. So on Saturdays he does website review, so people can submit their website, he
Okay.
do a review. On Sundays he has a Q&A, and then the rest of the days he's got some kind of something going on.
Okay.
And he also engages, so you have the same regular people coming on. So he, for 100th day, he brought on some of these people that continuously came on Zoom chat, so then they can all come and talk to him on face to face or something like that. So that was pretty fun. And then through that community, there's at least 10 or 16 people that got together and created a video thanking Pat Flynn for all of that, right?
Wow.
So I was like, wow, this is really interesting. Like he's created a community just out of that, and there was a Slack channel all around it. I'm like, this is really
It's
intriguing, very
powerful.
interesting, very powerful. But then what's funny is that whoever created the Slack channel, they're like, no, 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 we don't need Pat Flynn in here.
Okay.
We're just gonna manage this community ourselves and talk about the stuff that he's talking about and help each other out.
Ah, yep.
Right. So basically like a fan club where he,
Yeah.
Pat is not in there. So I was like, this is really interesting. And Pat's been experimenting with so many different things, and he's got connections with, not just connections, but like he's learned strategies from other YouTubers and collaborations and whatnot. So, who's to say, where he's taking it, but it's been pretty insane just watching that journey, for the past 150
And
150
he didn't,
episodes.
he did not create a second channel. He's just using his main channel for this, right?
Using the main channel. He's
Yeah.
even created, he even like went out and contacted this musician to create a, a music tone for, and he calls it the income stream, right? So they're talking about income. And so he's got a whole song around it. I don't want to play it because it's going to be stuck in your head and stuck in my head. But it's very catchy.
Yeah.
Like this is really cool. So, anyways, that's been something, and then so that's what he's been doing. And but what I've been doing, or I've been participating in this other Facebook group called Unconventional Leaders, and for the past 3 or 4 months, we've been doing coffee chats. So at 4 p.m. every day, we would, basically go live in the Facebook group and then share a Zoom link. So anybody wants to jump in, they would click on
Oh, wow.
the link. So there's
Yeah.
not 8, 7 people talking about everything entrepreneurship, everything about why we exist, and our whys and stories and TikTok and Instagram and like you name it. There's all sorts of conversations happening, and I've connected. I've like grown just being in those chats, just
Hmm.
by sharing my story, by sharing what I've struggled with and hearing from other people. It's been a very transforming experience for
Hmm.
sure.
That's awesome. That's awesome. You know, there's almost, I don't know if you struggle with this. I struggle because there's so much good stuff out there, and I
Mhm.
and I love learning.
Yeah.
Like I just love taking in all this stuff. And then I find like I've run out of time to create and put stuff out there. And it's like, and it's not the fear of missing out. I mean, I know there's the whole FOMO where it's like, well, I have to
Yeah.
be on Twitter. I've gotten past that. It's really just I like you learn so much from other people, and people are so generous in sharing
Yeah.
their ideas and collaborating. And it's like, okay, well, how do I get enough time to make,
Yeah.
there's got to be a balance, and I don't think I've figured that out. I just burn the candle on both ends, but that's not, I think, the answer necessarily. Yeah.
Well, but the funny thing is, so each conversation, every time we had this we would have a conversation, we would, take screenshots and whatnot and share. But what I also started thinking about is anytime I'm talking on Zoom, on camera, on talking to anybody, that conversation is sitting on Facebook, is sitting somewhere that
Hmm.
I can
Hmm.
re-download and reshare it. Like
Sure.
that's another way that I've been thinking like, okay, anytime I'm talking to somebody, let's just look at the camera and not at the screen because I
Yeah.
can take a
Yeah.
snippet out of it. But again, it's so much work. It's a ton of work. Like you said, there's not enough time in the day. I mean, I have a subscription to masterclass.com where I can go learn about writing
Okay.
from Malcolm Gladwell, stand-up comedy from Steve Martin, and
Oh
acting
yeah.
from, uh, what's his name? Dang, I forget it.
What is the topic?
The acting from the
Malkovich, John Malkovich.
John Malkovich has acting. I didn't know that.
I don't know. Yeah, I don't know.
But anyways, this amazing actor, Jackson.
You can learn how to do electronic music from Dead Mouse. You can do, I
Yes,
mean, all that stuff. Ron Howard does directing, and
exactly. There's so much
yeah,
stuff that,
Scorsese is on there, I think. It's
yes, he
nuts.
is. It's
Yeah.
nuts. And Steve, Ramsey,
Yeah.
Gordon Ramsay's on there teaching you how to
Yep.
cook, and there's a video that my wife found how to cook the perfect burger. You know?
Oh yeah.
Oh my God. So there's so much to learn, but there's not enough time. So
Yeah.
I'm like, okay, which lane do I pick? Which lane's gonna bring me money back? Which lane's gonna help me get to that next level? So then I can spend more time on doing this stuff.
Well, absolutely. And one of the things I share with my clients, whenever we're talking strategy, I'll say to them, this is more on the corporate level, but I think it applies to us individually as well.
Yeah.
People get focused on strategies being what are we going to do? There's another piece to strategy, which is what are we not going to do? What are we going to choose to say no to? And I think that's a very important dialogue to have either as a team or to have with yourself as you're
Yes.
trying to figure out, because we are limited entities on this earth. I'm not omnipotent. I'm not yeah, I'm omniscient and omnipresent. I'm just Mike, and I've got a limited bag of resources to work with. So what am I going to say
Yeah.
no to? And that's actually, it can be tough, but it's also liberating. Sometimes having
Right.
constraints, when I ran my agency, we did a lot of design work, and I don't sell myself as a designer, but I had some world-class designers on my team. And my one guy, his name is Phil Dagger, just
Hmm.
a wonderful person, very, very talented man, designer. But he said often the best design comes out of having constraints. When a client says, "Oh, I don't want to give you any guidelines, just it's wide open, do whatever you want,"
Yeah.
that's actually bad. You want the client to create constraints, because then when you've got constraints, you come out with some really amazing solutions.
Absolutely.
Uh, and I think that's the challenge we have right now. It's like we have to give ourselves constraints somehow so that we can do great work. And I think that's hard to do. I don't know about you, but I think it's hard to do, because I think for me, and I'm sensing a kindred spirit here, I love learning. It's just
Yeah.
pleasurable. I just
Yeah.
love to learn. And sometimes I have to say, look, you can learn all you want, but it's not valuable. It's more valuable if you share what you're learning with the world. You have to share
Yes.
it somehow. Not that everything, but I have to
Yeah.
share some.
Yeah.
So yeah,
No, absolutely excellent points. You got to have the constraints. You got to have those boundaries so then you can create in that space and
yes.
flourish. And I think that's why Apple's created the human, interaction guidelines, Google
Mm,
created the material guidelines. So anytime I'm designing something, I set up my artboard to say, okay, I'm going to design within this space.
sure. You're a UX UI designer. You know
Yeah.
this human
So
factors. Absolutely.
gotta have that, and then that's what's going to create me that's what that's what's going to create a really usable application, an experience
Right.
that people like, okay, this makes sense, I can flow through it without reading the manual.
Mm, it's good.
Well, thank you for bringing that point. That's really powerful. And so we got to put constraints on ourselves. My wife always tells me, how are we going to do 10 million things? The reason you're not able to get to that next level is because you're spreading yourself thin
Too much.
too
Yeah.
much, right?
Yeah.
I
Yeah.
was one example I came up with, we only have so much butter till the day is done. But
Yep.
yeah, and at the time you get to
You,
the edge of the day, the butter is done, and now you got to go to sleep, and it's the next day.
it only spreads so far.
Yes,
Although I have to admit, my wife grew up in a British, she grew up in South Africa, which used to be like a British colony back in the
yeah.
day, and it was a Commonwealth country.
Hmm.
Me being an American, we put butter on toast, we just slap it on there. But she could get the butter from edge to edge on the toast, and it was perfect. Like, she's very
Wow.
good at buttering toast, and I used to tease her that was her kind of English heritage, that she's good at buttering toast. But you're right, there's
Nice.
only so much butter, and you got to
Yep.
cover that bread
Yep.
before.
Absolutely.
Yeah, that's
Mike,
great.
Mike, it's been so awesome talking with you. Learning so much from you, learning the parallels that we have amongst each other and our passion for so many different things. I do have some questions towards this part of the podcast.
Okay, let's go
What is,
for it.
all right, let's do this. What is the one hobby that you wish you got into?
I would say sword fighting. I wish I always thought martial arts were the coolest thing. I loved as a kid, like
Mhm.
Hong Kong theater, karate movies. But there is something as I get older, and I don't know if this is for everybody. I don't know if this is a guy thing or what, but
Yeah.
there's this the ability to project yourself, and I don't mean just voice, but like project your power, project your physicality. I just feel like fencing or some type of Asian sword fighting would just be a cool hobby, I think it would be very fulfilling. I know it sounds silly. It's not like I'm going to walk around town with a sword on my like it's like the medieval days, but I think it would just be really cool to know how to do that. So that I don't know how to do that, but I think it would be cool.
Absolutely. I'm sure you can find some time to learn some fencing. I mean,
Yeah, I think
you
that
are
those
properly distancing while you're fencing,
that's true.
right?
And you've got the maybe the mask could be better filtered. I don't know.
Exactly.
Yeah. Yeah.
All right, next one. What did you want to be when you were a child?
So when I was a young child, I grew up Catholic. And when I was a young child, I wanted to be a priest.
Hmm.
And I think it's because I had a heart that was sensitive to spiritual things and so on. I had a good mother, still have a good mother.
Yeah.
Then I became a teenager. Well, not even a teenager. I think I was an adolescent, and I discovered that there were these other beings on the earth that were very beautiful, and those were girls. And so I realized that I didn't want to be a priest anymore because in the Catholic Church, priests can't marry. But I think in my early days, I wanted to be a priest, and then when I got into my teen years, I was very interested in this idea, which has kind of come through to today, of publishing. So this is pre-internet, but I was interested in printing presses, books, newspapers, anything that kind of communicated information out, public speaking. I was just fascinated with the concept of publishing, and I don't mean publishing print material, but just
Yeah.
getting information out into the world. And fast forward to 2020, and I would have never imagined that I'd
Yeah.
be sitting talking to a friend, and I'm in New York and you're in DC, and we're putting together this piece of content that's going to get published out to, hundreds of thousands of people. So
Exactly. This is
yeah,
beautiful. It's a beautiful time. Absolutely. The breadth and the flexibility we have to create content, to create a piece of
it's
art.
awesome.
It's so accessible. Like
It's really amazing.
it's
Yeah.
nobody has an excuse anymore, right?
No, no.
And there's applications like and the different platforms like Facebook, Instagram, so Snapchat, and then
YouTube. Yeah.
TikTok, YouTube, right?
Yep.
All of these platforms give you that power, and I keep seeing these companies copying each other, and they're not afraid, right? They're not afraid to copy each other. Like, and you could probably see this, right? Snapchat came out with this buttonless interface that you swipe
Okay.
everywhere. As soon as you open the app, you have camera, you're recording camera, you're creating stories. Facebook was not afraid to copy that. They were like,
That's
we're gonna
right.
put this in all of our apps.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
Now, every single app that's out there has a story concept. Then TikTok came with the vines and the kid TikTok. So they're not afraid to copy each other. I
That's
don't think
right.
we should be afraid to copy each other when we're creating our brand and
Mhm.
our individualistic, because we're gonna bring in our individuality no matter what content
Sure.
we create.
That's a good way to get inspired at the least, is to look at how other people do it. And if you try it out, you go, this doesn't fit me, but you might synthesize, you might take someone's
Mhm.
idea and then who you are, synthesize those into something new.
Yeah.
And like you look at Casey Neistat on video, YouTube,
Hmm.
for a while, not as much, but everybody was trying to be like Casey Neistat.
Everybody wants to him.
But then after a while, I think people have taken Casey Neistat's style and made it their own and
Yeah,
synthesized it into something new. And I think that's a good thing. Yeah, I
it
agree.
is. And if you look at Hollywood, they're a bunch of copycats,
Oh, they're terrible. They need
right?
some creativity in Hollywood. I'd love for
They
something to come
do.
out that's fresh and new.
No, no. What's amazing is we had one of the best shows, Seinfeld. I didn't grow up watching it, but I watched it after the fact, after it was
Okay.
done. I think it was one of the best shows, and
Yeah.
every other sitcom follows that same model,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
Everybody. Um, and then he did it again with Coffees and Cars,
Yeah. With
Comedians,
comedians.
Cars,
Yeah.
and
That's a
Coffee.
great. Yep.
And apparently, there's a lot of copies of that show too. People
Well,
doing,
even Curb Your Enthusiasm with Larry David. So Larry David was the writer that worked with Jerry Seinfeld,
yeah,
and
yeah,
he kind of just did his own version of Seinfeld, but it was Curb Your Enthusiasm, but it was about
yes,
Larry David, and it's genius. I mean, it works. But
yes,
he has a huge, like, there's a huge following of Curb Your Enthusiasm.
yes,
It's
there
really
is.
amazing. Yeah.
It is. It's an amazing show. So, talking about shows, what is your favorite movie or TV show?
So favorite movie, I am kind of a movie buff. Now, as I get older, I've noticed that that my patience and my interest with music and pop culture and movies has
Mhm.
waned a little bit. And it's not that but I've always loved films. I mean, The Bicycle Thief or Crouching Tiger, Hidden Dragon,
Yeah.
or there's just so many different movies. So it's hard for me to say which is my favorite. One of them that's kind of interesting, and I'm almost embarrassed to say it, but I think The Matrix was amazing. Now, I didn't like all three of them,
Mhm.
but I thought that Matrix was just groundbreaking, and it's very postmodern. It's dystopian. It's hard for me to say. If I had to pick a favorite, one that really captures my imagination,
Mhm.
I would say Crouching Tiger, Hidden Dragon. It's just such a beautiful. I guess I'm going back to martial arts, but
Mhm.
there's a real beauty, and there's a real. It's very realistic, and on one hand, it's very fantastic on another. It's a
Yeah.
story. It's a love story. It's a story of power. It's a story of hope and desire. It spans. It's cinematic. I mean, there's just so much there. Um, I just think that's a beautifully shot, beautifully told story. But then
Yes.
on the other hand, I can get into TV shows and stuff. You know, the one TV show I never got into, and I've
Mhm.
tried to, and I just don't know why I haven't been able to, is
Yeah.
Breaking Bad. And everybody's like, "How could you not?" I don't hate it. I'm not anti Breaking Bad. It just has
Mhm.
never grabbed me and pulled me in.
Yeah.
But I watch it and I go, okay, I see the attraction. Just never really did it for me. But
So how many seasons did you get into?
with
Or
Breaking Bad,
Mhm.
I probably watched 6 or 8 episodes of the first season and just
Okay.
thought, it just wasn't pulling me into the next episode. And if it,
Yeah.
on another level, I love it. I love the little details, like that little Pontiac Aztec that he drives, so pathetic. Or there's a lot of genius in that show.
Yes.
Totally understand it. It just never grabbed me, which I don't know why that is. It's a deficiency in me, obviously.
No, no, no.
But yeah.
No, so the way the show was set up, I think they used season one to be the pilot season. I mean, that's
Hmm.
most of the times it is,
Yep.
but
Yep.
when it got picked up, I think season two has more episodes than season one.
Okay. So
And
should I hang in there? Do you feel like I should keep
I
going?
think you should hang in
Because
there.
I love Better Call Saul, which I know is a little sillier. It's not
It is
as
silly,
gritty,
yeah.
but I love it. Like, I just think it's genius.
It is.
And I understand what it is. It's a little bit more lightweight.
Yeah.
Well, I'll hang in there. I'll try a few more episodes. I'll try to get to season two. Typically, when the weather turns, like right now, we've got good weather on the East Coast, so I'm very
Yes.
busy outdoors and all that.
Mhm.
When it starts getting cold and dark, I'll sit and watch much more television, and I'll make an effort. I promise you.
Another way that my teammates, so I'm also on a cycling team. The one
Hmm.
way that we get on to watch shows is we'll put a TV in front of a bike and sit on our
Okay, yeah,
trainers
that's the way to
indoors,
do it.
right? So you're doing two things at the same time,
Well, you can tell
type.
just looking at me, I'm the pinnacle of fitness. The pinnacle of
Absolutely.
fitness. Ladies, I am married, so please
Please.
respect my marriage. And
No, but you're right. The Breaking Bad did take me some while. I don't remember how long it took me to get to the next season, but I think my wife said the same thing. She's like, I can't get
Mhm.
into the show. I'm like, no, 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 you just gotta get over that first hump, right? First
Yeah,
season hump. And then you just see him just take on this entire new role. And
sure,
it's an amazing story about Bryan Cranston too, like how he was able to go from Malcolm in the Middle to this
right.
new role. I mean, now he's like a superstar. He's shown up in all sorts of movies.
Yeah.
I think it shows that journey and his ability to,
So much respect for him. That shows the depth of him as an actor
yeah,
and as a creator. I just a lot of respect for him. The
yeah,
transformation that his character goes through in Breaking Bad, and you're right, some of the other stuff he's done.
yeah,
The other show, just one
mhm,
show that I love,
yeah,
and this is because I was in high school in the early '80s, but that would be Stranger Things. I love the combination of nostalgia, the
mhm,
videography, the cinematography, the music that they pull in, and the story that they tell. Season one, two, season three was still good. Like, I
yeah.
struggled with season three a little
I
bit,
did
but then
too.
afterwards thought I like it. But
Hmm.
I love what they've done with that show, and I just a lot of respect for Stranger Things. I haven't met anybody that says they didn't love it, but from my generation. I graduated high school in
Mhm.
1984,
Yeah.
and so that just touched on so many things for me watching the 70s and the 80s. But
No,
yeah,
that's a really good point, and it's something about the 80s. There was so much creativity
yeah,
in that entire era. For 70s and 80s, there's a ton of creativity. And I think that's why movie Hollywood studio just sticks.
goes back to that.
They keep going back to the future, right? They
Yeah,
keep going back to those shows to see what else can we unfurl. Like we
right.
Netflix just released Transformers War for, from
Yeah,
Cybertron, copying, taking that entire story of the 80s of the original, Autobots and how they looked. And it's just so well done because
yeah. I think. Oh, I'm sorry. I didn't mean to cut you off.
no, absolutely.
Uh, I was just going to say, I think the thing about the 80s, and I think the 70s too, but the 80s had a real aesthetic.
Hmm.
So, like living through the 80s, I don't remember it feeling creative at the time, but it has such an aesthetic. The whole kind of electro wave, vapor wave, which is popular now, but
Yeah.
um, all the airbrushed art, the neon stuff, the like, and some of it was kind of shallow. Like some of the
Mhm.
80s aesthetic was shallow, but looking back, it's
Yeah.
so recognizable and so unique that I think it's just fascinating. If you look at the 90s, you go, well, what was the aesthetic of the 90s? Was it grunge, flannel? And like it was the 90s were very Gen X, very postmodern, but the 80s, there was still a naivete and there was just
Mhm.
this beautiful aesthetic and this music soundscape that lends itself, I think, for the kind of
Yeah.
content that's coming out today. But it's fun. Yeah.
So, one thing that you mentioned about music, and the aesthetics of 80s and then 90s, we can't really pinpoint. And I think what happened, and this is just my perspective of what happened in 80s is, you have a general body of musicians and thing. And
Hmm.
then what happened in 90s is more and more people started niching down,
Fractured. Yeah. Yeah.
fractured, or niching down into their own different spaces. And I think one thing that Seth Godin mentioned about one of the Grateful Dead is one of the most popular bands without doing any marketing because they were so
Mm.
niche and creating their vibe, they're creating their own tribe. And I think that's we see a lot more of that in the 20s, in the 20s.
The 2020s. Yeah. I know what you're saying.
2020s, right?
Yeah.
that that uniqueness, and how all you need is 1,000 to 2,000 followers to build your brand,
Yeah.
build your own, own thing. You don't have to have 1 million followers to make it in this time, which is so beautiful. I think that's what's happening with the times, and we're there's still that concept of generalizing population, like, oh, the millennials are these are the
Yeah.
millennials, Gen Xers, right? So it's easier to say, but again, if you look so deep into it, they're doing their own thing. They don't even care
Hmm.
about anything else. So it's amazing that when you look into the past and what the future is going to be, and where we're going, it's just amazing.
Mm.
Talking about the 80s, there's a new, I don't know if you call it new, but there's a new form of music called synthwave. You have to check it
Yeah.
out.
Oh, yeah.
Oh my God.
Totally.
It's on my
Yeah.
playlist every single day.
Yeah.
It's so good.
I tried to find when I did that Cybertruck review video,
Yeah.
I found kind of a synthwave
Mm,
soundtrack that I was able to use for certain scenes because I thought that would really embody the aesthetic of the
yeah.
Cybertruck and the tone. So yeah, I love synthwave, vaporwave. I mean, there's all this stuff. It's just like it's really fun. I
Nice.
it's really fun.
It's a lot of fun.
Look what I found. That's mine. Look what I found.
All right.
I found this. I found it. I transformed it.
They found my Transformer Bumblebee
Oh,
from
nice.
10
No,
years ago.
it's mine.
Okay, buddy.
Since you thrown away my Transformer Bumblebee, I'll break your Transformer Bumblebee.
Okay. All right, let's move on to the next question. We just got a couple more.
Okay.
What movie? So you pick your favorite movie to be Crouching Tiger, Hidden Dragon.
Yeah, it was a tough one. I mean,
It was a tough one. I mean, it's
yeah.
a really great movie. I mean, who directed it? I'm trying to remember. But no matter. The next question is, what movie would you choose if you got to play a character in it?
Oh goodness, I'd have to choose a John Woo movie. I'd have to go with, and I guess it's funny. Your audience is going to think all I care about is Hong Kong theater, which is not true. But I'd have to go with a John Woo movie, and I want to play. I like the was it the Replacement Killers? I can't. No, that's Woody Harrelson.
Okay.
John Woo, and it would have to be the a Chow Yun Fat
Mm.
character. Hard boiled. I'll go with hard boiled. I want to be Chow Yun Fat and hard boiled. Now I'm not tough enough or cool enough to play. And this goes back. This is again, I'm kind of going retro on you, but
Mhm.
that would be me if I could choose any one.
Well, you definitely can, because this question actually comes from the book Ready Player One, which was very nicely done as a movie too.
Mm.
Uh, in the book, he has to embody Matthew Broderick in War Games and know then all of the
Okay.
lines from the movie to solve a puzzle. So,
Okay.
I mean, there's a huge vibe of the '80s in this book. Also, Ready Player
Sure.
One. You have to check it out. All right, next question: who is your favorite superhero?
Favorite superhero. I'm gonna have to go with. I'm gonna go. So here, this is not a superhero, but can I choose a favorite cartoon kind of hero
Absolutely.
character?
Yeah, yeah.
All right. So when I was a kid, and this goes back to aesthetics, I loved the cartoon series Johnny Quest.
Oh
Do you
yes.
remember Johnny Quest?
I
And I want to
remember.
say that Johnny Quest was like created in the 60s. I mean, this is an old, and my favorite character on there was a guy named, I think it was Ace or Race Bannon.
Mhm.
So Johnny Quest was this young kid. His father was some scientist. He had a
Yeah.
little buddy named Haji, and they had a little dog, and the three of them would get into adventures. But I think it was Ace Bannon was like this, almost like a 007 bodyguard kind of guy, and he would
Uh,
always rescue them. So I'm going to go with Ace. Is it Ace or Race? I think it's Ace Bannon. I'm going to go with Ace Bannon from
nice.
Johnny Quest. Not a superhero, but
Race
a
Bannon.
it's
Uh,
Race with an R.
yeah, Race Bannon, voiced by Mike Road.
Okay. He was
Nice.
the original OG badass cartoon guy for me. So that's my choice.
Nice. I love
Sorry
it.
for the PG language, by the way. Hopefully it's not a problem.
So it's all good. All right, fantastic. Last question.
All right.
If you were a board game, what would it be?
If I were a board game, I would be Risk. Hands
Nice.
down Risk.
Hands down. That's a powerful game. You and it kind of makes sense because you love coming up with strategies and helping people strategize.
Yeah.
That's
Yep.
really awesome.
And it takes all that and combines it with world domination. A
Yes.
real, if you were asking me what my favorite hobby is, I maybe I should, instead of sword fighting, I should just go to world domination. But yeah, Risk. It's all about strategy, and there's something on a more gentle side. I really love the difference between cultures, countries. I love traveling. I love people from other cultures learning about things, and so there's the whole strategy, world domination, but then there's this beautiful, almost fantastic map of the world, this
Mhm.
imaginative map of the world,
Yeah.
and each country seems to call to me, and they have the old names like Irkutsk and these different that we don't use anymore, but
Yeah.
yeah, that would be me. Risk.
Fantastic. I love it. Risk is an awesome game. We used to play a ton of it back in the days. I think I even found an app for it, so I'm gonna have to
Okay.
go back and see if I can play some. Again, it all comes down to one thing that we have a very finite limit of
Time.
time.
Yeah, and Risk is a 3-hour commitment.
It absolutely is. Well, Mike, thank you so much for spending your time with us here on Hacks and Hobbies. Where can my audience find you?
Well, I will be happy to share that, Junaid. Before I say that, let me tell you, thank you so much for having me. What an honor to connect on this level. You and I have been developing a friendship, and what a pleasure for me as we've been doing this interview to discover on what level we're kindred spirits. Not only interested in some of the same things, but I think maybe I've inferred from our conversation we're motivated and even wired
Mhm.
similarly. So I'm very grateful for that. People can find me. Just go to my website. Just go to mikegastin.com. I'll spell it. It's MikeGastin, Gastin.com. You can sign up for my newsletter, stay connected there. You can find me on YouTube, Mike Gaston. You can find me on Instagram, LinkedIn, Twitter, Mike Gaston. Just hit me up. And I love connecting with people, as Junaid knows. So it would be a pleasure. Just reach out. And obviously I can't spend all day just chit-chatting with everybody, but it's just fun. The relationships are really what make life worthwhile. So I would encourage people, please get in touch.
Fantastic. Thank you so much, Mike. I'll be sure to, what's that word I say? I'll be sure to include the links in the show notes so people can get in touch with you and, connect with you on another level on your YouTube channel, because you've created some really amazing videos. The depth of knowledge that you have around branding, around business, around entrepreneurship, and I think there's a ton of good stuff. In fact, I share one of your videos about interviewing.
Oh yeah.
To a lot of people, and share that story because it resonates with because you connect with people on a human level, not I gotta be good to this guy, but I'm gonna be bad to other guys, because that shows what type of human you are.
You talking about the one where I shared a little secret where I would take prospective hires out for lunch and observe how they treat the wait staff. Yeah.
Yes.
That's real deal too. That wasn't just like I really would do that. And it's telling. It's very telling. Jenny, this has been so much fun.
It was a ton of fun. Thank you.
Yeah, really grateful. I hope that your podcast and your business offering for content creators all thrive and succeed. And I'm looking forward to seeing where you take all this. And I'm glad to be a part of it. So thank you.
Thank you so much. This was fun. Talk to you soon.
All right. Take care. Bye now.
Thank you for listening to this Hacks and Hobbies episode. Junaid would love to hear from you, so please leave a rating or a review on Apple Podcasts. Visit hacksandhobbies.com to find additional information on the guest today, as well as the show notes.